This is Mike Dilk of Relax Back UK.
Hi, and thank you for joining me, Mike Dilk, on the Relax Back UK show here on UK Health Radio, your global real feel-good radio station. Guess what? All you have to do now to listen to UK Health Radio is say, Alexa, play UK Health Radio. That's if you've got Alexa, that is. So that's a big advance. Also, you can go to my blog, which is on my website, relaxbackuk.com, and there are links to the Relax Back UK shows, also links to the guests info, and there's often also a short video preview of each show. Now, we'll have to see how that goes, considering I do have a radio face rather than a video one. Still, I'm enjoying doing them, so we'll see. Great topics this week. Anyone thought of having plastic surgery?
So let me tell you where the danger lies. So injecting the fat is fairly simple procedure, except for the fact that if you inject it too deeply, i.e. into the muscle of the butt, the gluteal muscle, there are some fairly large and fragile veins that you could tear. And the fat cells can then, or the globs of fat can go into the venous circulation, travel to the heart and lungs, and kill you almost instantaneously.
How about now? Still want plastic surgery? I have a very frank discussion with plastic surgeon Dr. Michael Zautzower, otherwise known as Dr. Miami, about plastic surgery, about the risks, about why people do it, how many people do it, what exactly is a Brazilian butt lift anyway. He is a very funny guy and has made many people look very different with his plastic surgery. He's definitely worth listening to, really, no matter what your thoughts on the subject are. Then we move on to a very different medical discussion, one which was started last week. I attended a conference in London recently. It was entitled The Changing Face of Medicine. The conference was in London, and it was looking how medicine and how it's delivered could change in the next 20 years or so. Now, there's not so many laughs as with Dr. Miami, but this kind of discussion could help a lot more people stay healthy in the future. Last week, we heard about genomics, and how tech such as AI, artificial intelligence, will influence medicine and its delivery. So please do listen to that show on the Listen Again facility if you think that would interest you. This week, I speak to a young doctor and he will be practicing, hopefully, for the next 20 years.
Kind of the social challenges that we're anticipating kind of between how the future of the doctor-patient relationship will be and how technology will influence that has been something that's been really eye-opening for me, given that in a few years' time this will be the work environment that I'll be kind of moving into and hopefully kind of take more of a leadership role in.
There's also a report back from a group of patients and doctors telling the medics what they hope and expect to receive from them in the future. So do please stay tuned for a fantastic show. Thank you.
Relax Back UK is run by my daddy.
I enjoyed talking to Dr. Michael Zautzower, aka Dr. Miami. A lot of what we chatted about really surprised me. So there's been periods when he's done up to 8 to 10 surgeries a day. Now, he's got a price list on his website. Have a look at it and do the maths, or math, as they would say. This industry is worth a lot of money. I really enjoyed the chat with him. I'm not sure I really get plastic surgery. So certainly there are many cases of people who have accidents, they've been burnt or they've been born with issues, soldiers who've been hurt fighting, where it is certainly needed. And there are also some people who do suffer serious depression or effects if they don't like the way they look. But I kind of get the impression that's a pretty small percentage of most plastic surgery that takes place. Anyway, all that to one side, Dr. Miami was great to talk to, and he must be good at what he does because he has a great long list of past customers and people that want to be customers in the future. Anyway, I started off by asking him if he really does go by the name of Dr. Miami.
That's right. You are so lucky. That is absolutely right.
How?
You're so lucky to be speaking with me.
Well, sure, I get that. How come you're called Dr. Miami?
Well, I'm a doctor and I practice in Miami. That's for starters. But really, it's a social media handle. You know, it's
Is it? Okay.
kind of like like 2 Chainz or Snoop Dogg. It's
your handle.
It's my handle, exactly.
All right.
Exactly.
Okay. All right. So, Dr. Miami, I got to tell you, I don't really inhabit the high octane world of plastic surgery. So I started off. I looked you up. I looked at some of the videos, and there's a video of you playing in a ball pit, and
yes,
there's also a video of you talking about someone trying to pay you with flat tummy tea. So I saw these things, and I thought, God, is this guy real? Is someone
real.
having a laugh with me?
No. I'm a real person. I'm a real surgeon. I do a heck of a lot of surgery, actually.
That's what I meant. You're a real surgeon.
Yeah, I'm a real surgeon, not an avatar. I'm a real person, not some kind of 3D generated thing from a computer. But beyond that, I do surgery every single day. Well, during the week, and I Snapchat it or stream it on Snapchat, Instagram. You'll see some stuff on YouTube.
Okay, right. Well, we'll chat about that in a bit. But
yeah.
So how many procedures do you do in one day then?
Oh, lately I'm getting to be an old man, so maybe 2 or 3 surgeries a day. In my prime, it was like 8 to 10, but I've slowed it down a bit.
All right. And you do all kinds of procedures, and you operate on many stars. Can you name drop a few?
Oh, well, let's just say the ones that don't mind me talking about their surgery, they're all mainly reality TV stars or musicians. You can just Google Dr. Miami and surgery. The ones that are out there in the public, it'll come right up, or on the Wikipedia page. It's awkward for a doctor to like name drop patients. No, and the A-listers for sure don't want their names out there at all.
No, I get that
for some reason. Yeah. But it's a mix of people in the entertainment business. Like I said, mostly actresses, singers, some wives and girlfriends of athletes and so forth.
Right. And I've got to say, because I'm such a dork, I probably wouldn't have heard of these people anyway, I have to say. So the kind of main topic I think that is potentially going to crop up is this procedure you do called a BBL. What is that?
Yes.
What is a BBL?
The BBL stands for the Brazilian butt lift. It's neither a Brazilian operation and it's not really a lift of the butt, but it's called the BBL. What we do is we take fat from the areas of the body you don't want it, like the tummy, the love handles, thighs, arms, you name it. We suck that out with liposuction, put antibiotics into the fat, isolate the fat, and then inject it into the butt to make it plumper, rounder, whatever shape, the patient wants. Now, it's kind of a 2-for-1 because you get skinnier in the waist, wider in the hips. And really, it's the only way to dramatically change a person's body shape. If you work out or lose weight, gain weight, you kind of just become a bigger version of the same shape, but you don't get to shift things around like we do in a BBL. And for many women who want like a curvy shape, they're kind of out of luck unless they do surgery, because if you're not born with fat pockets on your hips, you're never going to have hips. There's no muscle there. So it's quite a dramatic operation. Very, very, very popular in the U.S. and South America, less so in Europe, but still, really quite in demand. So that's what Miami is kind of known for, being a mecca, so to speak, for that operation.
And you've made a group, the World Association of Gluteal Surgeons, otherwise known as WAGS.
Yeah, that's a real group. We just had our first conference in Miami last month. We have over 175 surgeons in 40 some odd countries, maybe 47 countries. So it's a pretty wide ranging group, and we all like to do Brazilian butt lifts, and we have a communication, a WhatsApp group, and chats about how to make the operation better, safer. It's really
in the UK, WAG stands for wives and girlfriends, usually of a football team or a soccer team.
That's kind of tongue in cheek, not unintentional, the name, but it happens to work. So and people remember it.
Yeah. Okay. Oh, so it was. What brought this need to make this little gang, or quite a big gang actually,
Yeah,
of
it's quite a big
surgeons
gang.
that do this
So,
thing?
so the reason is because the demand for the operation sort of outstripped the supply of both surgeons who could do it safely and information for that the public needed to make good decisions about where and when to do this operation. So, for example, in the U.S., just in Miami, we've had 12 deaths from this operation in the last 6 or 7 years. Around the world, probably closer to 30 or 40, which doesn't sound like a lot, but it, compared to like deaths in a car accident or something. But since it is surgery, it is elective, we want to make sure that everybody stays safe. In fact, in England, in the UK, in
12 deaths out of how many? It sounds enormous. How many?
Oh yeah. No, it's so the death rate is anywhere from a high of 1 in 3,500 to a low of maybe 1 in 15,000. So the numbers are somewhat in dispute because we don't really have a great denominator. We don't know the exact number of operations that were performed. Of course, we know the number of deaths. We just know how many operations were performed over that time period.
Yeah.
But the estimates range from a high of 1 in 3,500 deaths per one death per 3,500 operations to 1 in 15,000. To put it into perspective, the risk of dying in childbirth in the U.S. is about 1 in 7,000. The risk of dying after a tummy tuck is like 1 in 12,000. The risk of, let's say dying from bariatric surgery where they do staple your stomach is about 1 in 1,000. So, these are not outlandish risks, but again, one death is a tragedy. So we don't want to we want to make sure everybody's safe as possible.
They sound kind of high for me, I got to say, especially for a procedure that, if you don't have it, you won't die. If you need bariatric surgery, you're probably
everybody dies.
Something else go wrong.
One way or another, everybody dies. The question is, what risk? So what we're trying to figure out, look, I would never get on a motorcycle. Everybody has their own tolerance level for risk and benefit. For a lot of women, 1 in 10,000 sounds like a fair shot, because, and a lot of men too. But again, these are in line. 1 in 12,000, let's say, is sort of in line with a tummy tuck or the kind of operations that people do fairly routinely. But you know what? Again, we're talking about elective surgery. So, for example, a hip replacement or bariatric surgery. Those are not things that if you don't have, will kill you in the next week. But they do make your life better.
Yeah.
And so with any elective surgery, you want to absolutely minimize the risk. Now, I can proudly say, and I hope I don't jinx myself, I've never had a death in my practice. And so that's one of the reasons why, when I heard that the United Kingdom banned the operation, that was one of the impetus for us in the US and South America to kind of band together and say, hey, they're banning this operation in the UK. I don't think they've ever had any deaths in the UK, actually. I think they're all British citizens that went overseas to have the operation in Turkey or Eastern Europe. Right. But I think in an abundance of caution, they banned it there. So we wanted to make sure.
Is it still banned in the UK then?
You know what? I believe that it is. I believe that your whatever organization oversees the safety for the
British
public health there has
of
issued a warning to stop
surgeons,
it.
I think.
Yeah. So, but again, look, the fact is that there's more plastic surgeons in Miami than in the entire country. Probably. Of England. So yeah. So it's a little bit. It's not exactly apples and oranges that we're comparing. On the other hand, we need to make sure that this operation, because the demand is not going away, patients will fly wherever they need to have it done.
Right.
Our goal is to make sure that wherever patients go in any country, anywhere, that at least they're asking the right questions of their surgeons to stay safe, and that surgeons everywhere know how to do this operation without hurting anybody.
Okay. So what are the dangers? If I was about to be on a slab and have this thing done to me, what could go wrong? If I was going to be this 1 in 3,500 people who wasn't going to get off the slab of their own accord.
Yeah. So let me tell you where the danger lies. So injecting the fat is fairly simple procedure, except for the fact that if you inject it too deeply, i.e. into the muscle of the butt, the gluteal muscle, there are some fairly large and fragile veins that you could tear. and the fat cells can then, or the globs of fat can go into the venous circulation, travel to the heart and lungs, and kill you almost instantaneously.
Okay, so it's quick.
Yeah, it's quick. It's very, so I guess that's, if there's a silver lining, I suppose. But no, I say that tongue in cheek. Look, it's a tragedy when it happens, but it's avoidable. In other words, if you are anatomically safe and smart, and you don't use cannulas, those are the metal tubes that we use to inject the fat with. If they're not sharp and you're injecting in the right place, and they're large bore cannulas, they're less likely to go through the muscle or go through veins that they shouldn't be.
Right.
So now there's a learning curve. There's some anatomy that needs to be learned for surgeons that are going to try this operation. But again, the temptation is just so great in many places for many surgeons to try it without necessarily, let's say, knowing what they're doing perfectly. And so we're trying to make sure that if you're thinking about trying this operation out, like any new operation, you need to be aware of certain things. And that's what WAGS is there for, to teach people, to get the word out. Again, the surgeons need to know certain things, and the patients need to know what questions to ask. You know, what kind of cannulas are you using to inject? They should be at least 4 millimeters in diameter. They should be blunt tipped and not sharp. You should make sure your surgeon only injects on top of the muscle and not into the muscle or underneath the muscle. The reason that question is important is because this operation, which has been around for about 25 years, for the first 10 years, the teaching was inject into the muscle, because the thought was that the blood supply was better there, the fat cells would survive better. But that turns out to not be the case, and in fact makes the operation more dangerous. So we're trying to have surgeons that have been doing this for a while unlearn bad technique, and then new surgeons coming on board that they know how to do it properly.
Okay.
So I hope that wasn't too technical for your audience or for you. I mean, I kind of got into the actual detail of the surgery.
Yeah, no, that's good. That's really good. So I actually saw one of the videos. So I persevered with the ball pit video and tummy tea video, and I saw a video of this procedure, and I was looking at it, and I was thinking, I'm glad you're the surgeon and not me, because just watching this, I felt a little bit queasy just watching this thing. But
it takes a little getting used to.
Yeah, but for the uninitiated, it did look quite an aggressive kind of action of poking this thing into someone's butt.
Oh yeah, it's highly traumatic. It's not. It's quite an aggressive. It's not. Let's put it this way. It's not like taking out a pituitary tumor. You know what I mean? There is a. You need quite a bit of muscle there, quite a lot of force and energy to get the cannula in and inject the fat and so forth. But so is any kind of liposuction. If you look at videos of liposuction, you might be surprised to see how violent it is as well. But that's how we do it. All
right.
It's a mechanical operation.
Yeah, it is. It is a major operation. It's done under a general anesthetic, so it really is something not to be taken lightly.
Correct. So, although it can be done under local, it can be done. I choose to do it under general, but it can be done under local anesthesia, and there are many surgeons that do it that way as well.
Right. Okay. Oh, I hadn't realized that. And it provides quite a big difference in the way you look.
Yes. Yes. If it didn't, you wouldn't have people throwing money at surgeons. Do it. Take my money. Do it.
Well, we'll come on to the money in a bit later, but with the kind of changes that it makes and the fact that it's a big deal, do you kind of provide counseling before and after the procedure to your patients?
Always. Yeah, of course. Any plastic surgery operation the patient needs to be educated about the physical and emotional and psychological aspects and changes that happen. But this operation is it's not specific to this operation per se. I mean, You change your nose, you change the way you look quite dramatically.
And I can imagine that sort of people taking that in all kinds of different ways, because it's a big part of you, the way your body looks.
Yes, it does. Of course. Listen, it's more like everybody has an image of themselves in their mind. You change that image, you change your life. I mean, in a lot of ways. And especially if you feel more confident, more attractive, it's quite it can be quite a power trip. It can change, who you marry, what kind of jobs you apply for, how, how you feel speaking in public. So plastic surgery is, is quite an interesting phenomenon.
Do you provide counseling for the partner as well?
Sadly, no. It's usually not part of the thing, but I can tell you stories. I mean,
yeah, tell us a story.
Well,
change the name.
I can tell you stories. So sometimes when one's partner or spouse feels more confident, the dynamics of the marriage can change dramatically, with the spouse becoming jealous or insecure, the one that didn't have surgery. So those things need to be anticipated to some degree. Everybody's relationship is a little bit different, but it is something to think about before you go in for surgery.
Yeah.
Yeah. I had one lady post-op, her, she literally within 2 weeks of the surgery, by one of the post-op visits, she said, "Oh, by the way, I'm divorcing my husband." Like, what happened? She's like, "Well, he, the saying in America is he outkicked his coverage," which basically means she feels like she's too pretty for him. So it happens.
So he probably paid for the surgery.
Yes, he did.
And then she ran. Okay. Have you ever refused to take on a patient because you think they're just a bit not emotionally ready for it, a bit emotionally unstable?
Yeah, all the time.
Do you?
I would say 15% of the patients that come from me for consultations, I turn away. 15, not 50, 15%. And yeah, it's half emotional, half physical. I just don't feel like they're good candidates physically, or they're emotionally, let's say, not ready to accept happiness or to accept the emotional roller coaster that can be plastic surgery. Yeah. And we try to do it delicately when we refuse people. This is not the right time for you. We don't think this is going to make you happy for right now. You're better off spending your money on your mental health right now.
This is another reason why I'm not the surgeon, because I might say something like, "For goodness sake, please just do something more useful to yourself with all that money."
Well, yeah. So there's a delicate way of saying that, but that's the message. Yeah, that's the gist of it.
Okay. So you said a couple of times that there's a big demand for this BBL and also for other sorts of surgery. What's going on? What's driving this? Why is it so popular?
Well, I mean, one thing that's changed in the 20 years that I've been in practice is social media. I think that's a huge factor now. People are just looking at themselves more, comparing themselves to other people more. I grew up in the pre-internet age. There's probably 50 pictures of me from from birth to age 20. And, the average 15-year-old probably takes, 500 pictures a day of themselves. So I think that's a big factor. And then also the availability of plastic surgery has become a lot more common. There's more surgeons. Prices are less expensive. The risks, despite this conversation, the risks are actually gotten much, much, much safer for all kinds of surgeries. So I think those things combined. Yeah, it's like a perfect storm.
Hype. The hype and the availabiliity, you think?
Hype, availability, and the options. I mean, there's the BBL didn't exist as an operation 20 years ago, really. It was a theoretical thing.
So in fact, you are fueling it a little bit because you're a big social media guy doing,
a lot, and that's why I started this organization. I feel a little guilty.
Okay.
I have to sleep at night. I've never had a death, but I mean the fact that certainly somebody watching you do the operation somewhere and who knows where gets the idea, does it, and dies. I mean that's I feel a little guilty. Yeah.
Okay. So responsible. You've decided to sort of pass on the knowledge that you have to surgeons.
Yeah, not just me. There's a lot. There's so many great surgeons out there. I think it's the responsibility of surgeons to educate each other and the public. It's like any new operation or any operation that has risk, a heart transplant or a kidney. You need to make sure. The difference is that those operations just can't be done anywhere by anybody. And nobody's paying you cash and throwing money in your face to do it.
So are they doing this with plastic surgery?
Yeah, for sure.
They come up to you with a case full of cash.
Yeah, it's like a truckload. They just back it up. No, but the demand. I mean, I'm being silly, but the demand is quite high.
Right.
Quite high.
Okay.
Oh.
So with that in mind, if someone has decided that this is the right thing to do for themselves and they've got a ton of cash and they don't want to make themselves feel better by giving it to charity, they want to go ahead with this operation. Okay, what you've got to do first of all is find a surgeon that isn't going to kill you. How are you going to do that?
I think that's A1. That's for sure the first step. It sounds easy, but it's not, because you need to know what questions to ask.
Yes.
And you need to know how to do your research and so forth. I mean, look, I would definitely ask the surgeon, have you ever had a death in your practice? And even if the answer is yes, it might be yes, but let me tell you what happened, because, surgery has risk. It could happen to any surgery, even going to the dentist. People have died just from the Novocaine injections. You need to ask that question and then say, well, what happened? And if the answer is, well, I injected fat into the muscle and they died, that would be a red flag. On the other hand, they might say, I would never do that again. We've changed our technique. It's more safe, etc. But those questions need to be asked. You definitely don't want to go in to surgery with someone who is like a cowboy mentality, or like a factory type setting where it's just patient after patient.
Does that exist in the States?
Oh yeah, for sure.
Oh God.
It exists everywhere. It exists everywhere. It exists certainly in the States. It exists in South America. It exists in countries all over the world, in Eastern Europe. It may be a tad safer in the UK because I guess the medical system is more regulated. But again, it's not. There's no amount of regulation that can stop a cannula from going into the wrong place and injecting. People still die in surgery, even in England. So the point is that you need to make sure that the specific surgeon operating on you knows the safe way to operate, has done it before, and that you're a good candidate physically and emotionally, and then you can go ahead, and then it's fantastic, for many people.
Yeah. All right. So finding the right questions to ask, and I guess finding other people that have been operated on by this guy.
Yes, it's a good idea. Good idea. That's a good idea.
So what's that? A bit of serious Googling, or how can you do that?
Yeah, a bit of serious Googling, and you can go on social media. Many patients go through plastic surgery journeys, we call them, and they document them on social media. And if you just do a quick search there for BBL, you'll find literally hundreds, maybe thousands of women that document every step of their process, which doctor they're using, what questions they're asking.
Right. Is it only women? Guys, men.
It's like, I would say 95% women, 5% men, and an occasional couple that will come in, husband and wife, or girlfriend, boyfriend, and do it together.
Okay, very sweet. Yeah. It's like Valentine's present or something.
Yes, exactly.
Okay, and one thing, this is going to seem like a really silly question, so apologies, but so on your website you had price list, which kind of surprised me that you had that there anyway. Now I'm kind of fat. Would I be more expensive? Because there might be more stuff to suck out and stick it in the right place.
Well, look, I mean, I limit the maximum size of the patients that I'll operate on. So, for example, your body mass index has to be 30 or below. So we don't run into these questions. So 30 or below means above 30, you're technically obese. Below 30 is you might be slightly overweight, but still at a healthy weight. So I'm never faced with having to liposuction, 15 liters or 20 liters of fat out of somebody. But I can refer you to a very, very good surgeon in Morocco, that does 20, 30 liters of fat and liposuction in a hospital there. So, I mean, there's places to go, but it just won't be in my practice.
Okay. So
you'd probably be charged more by Dr. Tazi in Morocco.
Okay. So he charges per liter, does he?
Oh, you know what? I don't know, but he is a fantastic surgeon. So maybe.
Okay. All right. Fantastic. So look, this whole world is fascinating to me because it's just something I've never come across, and I have to say I've enjoyed talking to you.
Likewise.
And I sounded a bit flippant because it's just something I don't know anything about, and I suppose I'm lucky in that I've never felt the need to have.
If you're born an Adonis like yourself, I mean, I've never seen a picture of you, but could be. then you don't need to think about these things. But
I've got to say this about good-looking people. We're not well liked.
Yeah, well, you have a few advantages over the rest of us, so we're a little jealous.
Very regular, slightly chubby bloke. So look, very interesting chatting.
Thank you.
If people will be listening to this, and if they want to find out a bit more about you or these kind of procedures in general, I'm assuming you've got a website, and if you just I've seen it. If you just Google
so for me, it's very easy to find me. If you just Google Dr. Miami, I'll come right up. Website, etc., and social media and so forth. On Instagram, it's The Real Dr. Miami. On Snapchat, it's The Real Dr. Miami. TikTok, even now. Have you tried TikTok?
No, I'm a TikTok virgin.
Oh, you should download it immediately the minute this conversation is over. It's hours of endless fun once you get the hang of it. But that's it. But if you want information about the World Association of Gluteal Surgeons, the website is glutealsurgeons.org. And it has a map of the world, and you can click on your country and find a surgeon near you that's committed to safety in this. Yeah.
Right. I will put a link to that on my blog and various social medias that I put this on. So, Dr. Miami, thank you very much indeed for chatting.
Thank you. Thank you for having me, and have a great evening.
UK, run by my daddy.
So if you want to avoid the need for plastic surgery in the future, remove the need for a bit of lipo, maybe you need to move around a little more. Why not keep moving when you sit at your desk? It's better for you, it's good for your posture, your back might not hurt so much, and also you might burn off a few calories. Try sitting on the back at chair. You can try it out for free. That's if you are in the UK. Just go to my website, relaxbackuk.com. Click on the try out a back at chair button. Fill in your details and I will take care of everything for you. Now, shortly, we're going to hear from a couple of people who were at the Changing Face of Medicine conference. It's nothing to do with plastic surgery, but it's looking at how medicine might change in the next 2 decades.
Relaxback UK, run by my daddy.
Patients are what medicine is for, so they should be right at the centre of any decisions. Dr. Patricia Wilkie has been part of a working group that reported to the Changing Face of Medicine conference, and the group has been looking at what, as patients, we might expect or hope from the medical world. And I started by asking her what the makeup of the group was.
The group is a group of doctors and lay people working together, and the paper that I gave was an accumulation of their views. The lay people, there were 2 of them sitting over there. The others have not been able to come today. A couple of GPs in the room that were part of the group.
So it was a working group that's been looking at these things for a year and a half.
18 months. Yep.
One of the things one of the topics or cores that seemed to crop up in the things you said was sort of communications and how we engage, how we as patients engage with the medical world. And you gave some examples of things that I found, well, I suppose I'd never really thought about them before, how it's very common for doctors in hospitals to send a letter to our GP about us and not include us, we're not part of the picture. We don't even get a copy.
That is true. The clinical genetic societies about 30 years ago recommended that genetic consultations, which are long and complex, the letter be sent to the patient, copied to the GP. There was a outcry that this would be too complicated, it would take too long. The beginning of the letter would be personal to the patient, the end would be what had been decided. The middle bit would be about the illness, the disease, and how it's transmitted. So that's a cut and paste. It is exactly the same with the majority of the letters from secondary or tertiary care to patients. The way that the tone of the letter is changed if it's written to the patient. There's a specimen letter from the Academy of Medical Royal Colleges, but about a month ago, a nephrologist had a letter published in the BMJ about how he's been doing this and how it makes him think it's better for the patient.
Well, absolutely. You know, because you're involved. In fact, you're the most important part in all this. It's you and your body.
Yes, and it's so... I received a letter about a month ago from a Centre of Excellence, tertiary care, and it had about medication. It was a letter to the GP, as if they didn't know the medication. I have eye drops, which had nothing to do with this problem I was being seen in the tertiary sector. And it says, this is reported by the patient. We have not checked that this is correct. And there was an exclamation mark.
It's just kind of a bit rude almost, really, isn't it?
Well...
All right. On to something else that you mentioned, and I could tell you were quite fired up about this one. Health records and our data. And, you know, at the moment, the situation is pretty much, most of us don't really have access to our health data.
We have no direct access to our hospital records, but we're entitled to ask for them and to get them, copies of reports or anything we want. If it's a lot, they may ask us to pay for the copy, the photocopy. Our GP record is available online with different of the suppliers, but it goes through another software company. Now, one of the software companies that it goes through states that the record is stored somewhere in the European Economic Community. What does that mean? And where is the transparency? And in any case, the record is minimal. It's not going back a long time. It depends how much has been put in. It's really been done in order that we can get repeat prescriptions and make appointments. It's not for us accessing our records. But if you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, however many different conditions, what you want is to be able to see your records quickly.
Yeah, absolutely. No, actually, not just you. The doctor that's looking after you.
Yes, and anybody you may meet who is going to look after you.
Yeah. Okay. Right. So, is that going to change in the next 10, 20 years?
So John Oldham, who's a Labour person, about 5 years ago recommended that the GP record is currently owned by the Secretary of State. That he recommended that it be changed to be owned by the patient, kept in safekeeping in the GP practice. I would like to see that requires an Act of Parliament to change it. What I would like to see is that happening.
Okay, right. Well, let's hope it does. I think that's got a good chance, actually.
Well, with the patient revolution, yes.
Okay. Right, patient revolution. Last thing, just last topic, because they've restarted, and so some of what you talked about was how to get all of us, patients, involved, masters of our own self-management. Now, this sounds like an excellent thing, but I've got a suspicion that it might be quite hard to do, not just because of how the medical world behaves and needs to change, works. Us patients need to get involved as well, and I think a lot of us go to the doctor expecting to be fixed. Yes, so we need to get involved. How can we change that?
We can change it because we will be able to change it because we're going to be told to go and have exercise, and Gersh mentioned this, and to stop smoking and all the different things. That's not going to solve the problem, but we're going to be asked to take more responsibility, and taking responsibility means getting involved in self-management. Right. And it's essential. And if you're, I'm not, but if one was a diabetic, I don't know enough about it, but you've got to inject or take tablets and test your urine and your blood regularly. You will want to know what your results are. You'll want to know them quickly. So you are involved as a partner in this management of your condition. And it saves time. It saves the patient time that's never costed. I didn't mention that today, but it's never costed into the whole equation. And it will save the medical profession or the healthcare profession's time too. It must do.
All right, well, let's hope that can happen. So, based on all that, are you hopeful for the next 10 or 20 years that things will improve, or just kind of jog along as they have been?
I am hopeful, providing I can have energy to keep pushing.
Well, on showing today, I think that's not going to be a problem. You've got plenty of energy.
Well, I hope so.
Thank you very much indeed for chatting.
Pleasure. My pleasure. Thank you.
Then I moved on to speak to a relatively newly qualified doctor. His name was Richard Cruttenden, and I asked him if he'd heard anything at the conference that had surprised him.
Yeah, it's been a fantastic conference to go to. I'm a foundation year doctor, so I'm quite a new doctor. But it's amazing to see kind of the leading experts talk about what we feel the future of medicine will be, both from a doctor and patient perspective. And I think kind of the social challenges that we're anticipating kind of between how the future of the doctor-patient relationship will be and how technology will influence that has been something that's been really eye-opening for me, given that in a few years' time this will be the work environment that I'll be kind of moving into and hopefully kind of take more of a leadership role in.
So do you think the skills that you thought you had, and which is why you wanted to become a doctor, will be different, in 5 or 10 years' time? Are you going to need to be able to do and know how to do different things?
I think fundamentally the kind of core communication between the doctor and the patient will always be there. But I think you're absolutely right in that what we have to deal with in terms of being able to interpret different types of data, being able to deal with new modes of technology and how that interacts with the patient, that is something that we will have to kind of learn to adapt to, definitely.
And so far technology has been spoken about quite a lot. Was there sort of one thing that came across to you as being likely to cause the biggest changes in the next 10 or 20 years?
I think the talk that we had on genomics and how kind of genes and medicine interact is something that we will definitely be watching out for in the next 10 years, given that prior to this it's been very much treating something that's already happened, whereas genes will give us the opportunity to possibly predict and then treat things in more precise detail than we've ever been able to do so before.
Right. Prediction is kind of interesting. That could scare a few people in thinking, well, actually, I don't really want to know that I'm going to get dementia age 50. I don't know. What do you think?
Well, absolutely, and I guess this is why we're talking about today. It's just a concept at the moment, but we already have forms of that now. We talk about risk profiles with patients. So if you've had X condition before, or if your family members have had X condition before, and we already know that it's genetically linked, then we already know your risk is higher. And I'd argue that you're right, not everyone wants to know, and that's entirely up to the individual patient. But if we're in a position where we can say your risk is higher, we can find ways to reduce that risk, I'd argue that's a lot better for both patient and the doctor and healthcare in general.
So in fact, in many ways, it's just a slightly more advanced way of doing what we're doing already.
Absolutely, yeah, I definitely agree with that.
Yeah. Okay. What else? So you've spoken about the genomics. Anything else in particular come to mind?
It's very difficult to say. It's always very difficult to kind of predict the future, and we're talking about things that we're dealing with now and kind of trying to extrapolate that into the future. Whereas things the way things change always tend to be in shifts. So the Victorians, they envisaged a world of steam. It's very difficult for that. It would have been difficult for them to predict the world we're in now. But I'd say that fundamentally the role of the doctor and the patient is one that is built on mutual trust and communication, regardless of the kind of social and technological changes around that. I think that will always be the enduring thing that underlies the heart of healthcare.
Good. So you're still glad you decided to become a doctor?
Oh, definitely, 100%.
That's the right answer. I think we can leave it there. Thank you.
Oh, perfect. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much to my guests on this week's Relax Back UK show, and they were Dr. Miami, plastic surgeon, Dr. Patricia Wilkie, member of a working party at the Changing Face of Medicine conference, and also Dr. Richard Cruttenden, attendee at the same conference. And of course, thank you to you for listening.
That was Mike Dilk of Relax Back UK. Thank you for listening, and please join us again next time.